It is summertime, and today we are going to be talking about Ogling and objectifying. I hear hold on. Let me start in a second just to see if anyone has any questions. Make sure you put them in the chat. Welcome to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. I am your host, Craig Pera, the founder of the Mindful Habit System, and I've been helping guys overcome their compulsive sexual behavior, all of their compulsive behaviors, and create healthy sexuality and live great lives. With my team for over the past decade. And today we are going to be talking about ogling and objectifying. We're going to talk about its biological components. We're going to talk about the cultural components. And most importantly, we're going to talk about what to do about it. And the reason I think these lessons are so important, well, let me give you kind of the setup for this. So I just got back from Hawaii with Michelle celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary. For those of you who've been listening to me for some time and know my story, wow, like we made it. And what was so cool about it, it wasn't just a celebration of the past decade, but a celebration of what we've accomplished over the 25. It was like a kickoff. It was a kickoff in terms of what's next. And so that was awesome. And I'm in Hawaii, and I notice that bathing suits seem to be getting smaller and smaller. I, instantly walk into a resort-like area and just for a second notice there's skin everywhere. And I said to myself, I am so glad that I have tools right now, because if I didn't, and I remember back to when I didn't, I would lose myself in fantasy. I would engage in behaviors that would upset my wife and ultimately come to traumatize my wife when I was directing that energy someplace else. I would have not just looked and noticed, but I would have held on to it. I would have ran with it. I would have taken something that wasn't mine. So what I want to do today is I want to give you not just some tools, tips, and techniques to help you not do it, but building an identity, not an identity of someone who is a prude. Not an identity of someone who is walking with their head down. I can't look. The mindful man walks with his head up, right? The mindful man has changed his relationship with the female form. And yes, he notices. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. Yes, he notices, but he does not get swept away into the undertow because he's built an identity, not of someone. I can't do that. I better not look. If I look, it's going to trigger me and lead me to fantasy. It's not, no, I can't do that. It's, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. It's disrespectful to my wife. It's disrespectful to the person. It's not consistent with my moral ethos. It's not consistent with a man that I want to be. It's not consistent with the type of father that I want to be and the type of leader that I want to be. The mindful man has changed his relationship with the female form in his journey to creating healthy sexuality. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And for those of you guys joining me, hey, Jewel, post your questions in the chat. And if you're not joining me live, all you have to do is to subscribe to this channel on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and you will get notified when I go live. And you can join me and Jewel, and you can type me questions. So I love to hear those questions. So please, if you have any, put them in the chat. Here's a reality that I want to start with. And this is a difficult pill to swallow. And this is a difficult pill for partners to swallow. And this is a place where men make promises that they cannot keep when they tell their partners, I am never going to look again. I'm never going to oogle again. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stop doing it. Brother, and I'm going to explain to you why, right? That is a promise that you can't keep. I want to start with the premise that you will notice. And I'm going to give you two categories of reasons why you'll get results from acknowledging that reality. One, because it's reality, and I'm holding a cup, and this is my headphones, and you're watching to me on some electronic device, right? We're sharing the same reality, right? Guys who don't fail. And they make promises they can't keep, and they make their relationship worse. When you acknowledge the biological reality that's happening here and the cultural and environmental training that's happening here, you will agree that you will notice. And by the way, there's ample scientific evidence that well, let's get into it. Let's get into it. I want to be quick. So one, there is a strong biological pull to oogle and objectify. Scientists believe that we men are more visually wired than women, which explains our higher use of pornography, at least in part. Evolutionary biologists believe that the male Homo sapien is wired for variety. From a reproductive evolutionary perspective, there's a biology around noticing breasts, noticing butts, that initial attraction is deeply ingrained into our evolutionary wiring, the noticing. Now, let me be clear, because sometimes I don't want anyone to think that I'm being an apologist for men's disrespectful behavior. I am not. And it is absolutely so disrespectful to the partner whose husband has got the sunglasses on and is losing himself in other women for his own selfish, cheap thrills. It's not even something that he's proud of doing. It's cheap. He's hurting his wife. I am not apologizing. I'm not making excuses for that. But the noticing part, and when you combine the biological underpinnings around the noticing with the cultural training that we men, and we have to do a better job for our sons and for our children. But we were trained to objectify the female form, and I've been playing this peekaboo, hide and seek game with what you can't see and what you can't see, what you can, what you can't, and the looking and the peeking and the shadow cleave and the excitement and the showing and the not showing, that game since we were children. The posters at the fair, the posters at the in the magazine shop, knowing it was bad not to look. Right? The objectification of the female form is wired into our reality as young boys and as we grow into men. And unfortunately, some of us get stunted, right? Our growths get stunted. I was stunted in the sense that my sexuality or my identity as a healthy sexual male didn't evolve. And that's the opportunity that this presents. You listening to this podcast is an opportunity for you to create healthy sexuality. And let's talk a little bit about that. So, a strong biological pull, a massive reinforced, trained, conditioned environmental component to oogling and objectifying. You will notice, or at least accept the reality that you will notice for the time for the foreseeable future until you work to retrain and recondition that automatic, instantaneous pull that you have to notice. And I'm going to give you some tips to do that. And I'm going to also give you some guidance and support for some things that you can do in your relationship too. So, I worked with a therapist, George Collins. He wrote the book, Breaking the Cycle. There were two techniques that I learned from him. And don't look twice, right? Because, you look, right? You go back again. You go back again. Sometimes if you're in the store, you maneuver the shopping cart to get the better position so you can look again or look from a different angle. Not now, no, but I certainly did it back then. So the not looking twice is like, wait a minute. Like, okay, I noticed, move on. I noticed, move on. The other is don't look for more than 2 seconds. I think it might have originally been a 3-second rule, and I would kind of 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So I exploited that rule. And so I shrunk it to 2 seconds. And here's the identity play, right? Because those are tools to not do something. Those are tools to not do something, and that's important. And wouldn't it be great if we can build an identity around like who you are and who you want to be? So here's the bridge to identity. Oh, and Rob, yeah, so easy. Comes so natural. I mean, go out in public and do a study on yourself and watch what pulls your eyes automatically and instantaneously. If that was a skill set that could somehow benefit national security, me and many of brothers like me would be in like video game like jobs with the National Security Administration, like identify, like so quick, like ninjas. Ninjas can see an exposed something, from 3 clicks away. I don't even know what that means, but I've heard my military guys say that from really far away. So a strong, trained, conditioned response, and study that conditioning. I'm giving you. There's a cultural. You dig into what's yours. What was the training that you received on not looking? What was the training that you received around looking? And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. A lot of conflict, a lot of shame, a lot, tapping into a natural wiring of like excitement and titillation and arousal. Like, oh my God, like a perfect storm for our teenage brains. The bridge to identity is to use the trigger to objectify as the trigger to personify, to humanize that person. And this technique has brought me great value. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So you are going to get triggered to objectify. And I behoove you men, where it's safe to do so, to tell your partners that I am going to get triggered to notice. Right? That pull is going to happen. Okay. But what you can do is you can train yourself to develop such an awareness of when you look, what happens in your brain, what are your automatic instantaneous thoughts, how that feels in your body, right? You use your awareness of that trigger to objectify as a prompt, as a cue, as a trigger to do something else. It's like reaction and then action. And so around this personify, what does that mean? And that might be, who am I, looking at like a piece of meat? Who am I having thoughts about? Maybe a mind moves to fantasy and taking something that isn't mine, that I don't have permission to take. Or how would I feel if, someone was thinking these thoughts about my kid, my daughter, my niece, my nephew, whatever the perspective is. It's shifting your perspective. Is this healthy? Is this bringing me any value beyond high fructose corn syrup? and is going to really hurt my wife. Right. And the opposite of objectify is to personify and to humanize that person as a human being. Now, some people like the technique of picture that person with doing something gross, like a shit stain in their underwear, or getting sick to their stomach, or some prescriptive, gross perspective. I don't recommend that. I don't like that, and I don't think that's healthy for most people. It's not. It may help initially with the oogling and objectifying, but those kinds of thought processes tend to have negative downstream ramifications. And why do you have to get gross? Why does it have to go gross? Why can't it be, hey, I noticed, that's nice, move on? Wish her well. Maybe if you're a spiritual person, you say a prayer. Maybe if you're a mindful person, you direct positive energy. Maybe you thank the person for the opportunity to wake up, to snap out of it, So you use your trigger to objectify as the trigger to personify. And so in that trigger to personify, you are building an identity that is changing your relationship with the female form, where you are in control. Again, you're not a prude. You're not looking down. You will notice, but it's not consuming you. You're not losing yourself in it. You're not disrespecting your partner. In fact, when in perfect cases, to go out in public where she feels good. Now, listen, there's a lot of this that you can't do yourself. Okay, a lot of when that insecurity wound that gets touched through the lying, the compartmentalizing, is a pre-existing wound, and is sometimes important for the partner to treat that wound, the core wound, or the stack trauma, that insecurity. I'll give you an example. One partner we worked with became so obsessive compulsive around her ruminating thinking, she wasn't able to go out in public. And thank God she was able to get the help that she needed. And she had her path, and she had, her plan. And so while I'm focusing on the guy here, let me know in the chat, or let me know in the comments if you'd like a perspective on from what we've shared with the partners over the years, in learning how to treat that core wound and build a framework for going forward and creating safety to be able to go out in public. So, just generally speaking, be proactive around risk management. If you, brother, are in a relationship where going out in public is going to trigger your partner because she's really insecure and deeply wounded by, her awakening to the reality that you're directing that sexual energy to someplace else, right? That can be really, really traumatic. So what can you do? What can you do when you're out in public? Sometimes taking off the sunglasses. Taking off the sunglasses, not hiding behind the sunglasses. Examine your habits. And if hiding behind the sunglasses is one of your habits, take them off. Take them off, or certainly take them off in a place where she's wondering. Okay? Number 2 is have a plan with each other. And brother, that means you say, honey, if we're out in public and you notice me like drifting off, and, I'm not going to try not to. Obviously, I'm going to try not to, but, give me a little, hey, sweetie, over here. And I might be looking at the flowers. I might be looking, and I might, have been looking where I shouldn't, where I don't want to look, where I want to look here. So please tell me. Right. And the reason why you want to create an environment so your partner tells you, so it doesn't, blow up. You can address it in the moment. You can address it in the moment. And so having a plan, And if you've heard us talk about the emotional safety plan, that's also a critically important tool that you can customize when you're going out. What is our emotional safety plan? So when we go out, you feel so supported. And when I go out, we're both going to feel good about ourselves, and we're both going to have fun, and we're both going to create joy, because life is too short to stink. And it is the summertime. It is time to enjoy the outdoors. It is the time to be free and experience new adventures and do things that make you feel good about yourself. That's the aggressive pursuit of a great life. That's feeding the right wolf. That's to break a habit. You have to make the right habit that meets the right need. And if you're in a relationship and listening to this broadcast, you may have caused a significant amount of damage with your partner. And here's one of the things that I learned that worked for me. And it doesn't mean it'll work for you, but it might. So here was the pattern. Michelle and I are holding hands. We're out in public. This is early on, post, hospitalization, fired, certainly hadn't started coaching yet. But counseling 2-3 times a day. But we were making progress. And so we'd go out in public, and I'd oogle and objectify, and she'd notice that I'd oogle and objectify. I'd pull away. She doesn't want me. She doesn't want to touch me. She, of course, she's angry at me. She's upset with me, and a lot of projection issues that I came to realize how much of my mother that I was projecting onto her, projecting authority, projecting control, projecting, all sorts of things that weren't kindness and love and empathy and support, which is all the things that she was and is. And so I would pull away, she would pull away, and we would, not feel good about ourselves. It would feel like a setback. I get angry at myself and certainly probably at times get angry at her. So one of the things that I realized is, and so that action reaction thing, that proactive versus reactive thing, instead of, like, let's say if I think that she thought that I was looking someplace, on whether I was or whether I wasn't, I would grab her by the waist, or I'd have her by the waist, or I'd pull her closer. I'd immediately direct attention to her. I'd immediately do something that says that she is a priority, that she isn't important to me. And if I notice, sorry, I'm back. And quickly we were able to, now listen, Michelle's a patient person, very, very forgiving, and was able to accept the reality that was the reality that I was going to notice. And that's not every partner needs to make that choice. I certainly respect a partner saying that's not what I want. And we notice, and there's a reality there, that acknowledging that reality, acknowledging the conditioning, acknowledging the training, acknowledge the reality of that which you resist persists. Any guy who's going out in public knows, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look. What happens? Right? Don't picture that. Don't look at that. You better not think about that. What happens? It's all you can think about. It's all you can see in your mind, and it becomes consuming, ruminating for some people, obsessive for others, because that which you resist persists. So that's why it's so important to acknowledge the notice, to use the notice, to take steps to increase your self-control, reinforce the identity of the man that you want to be, reinforce your moral compass about how you want to see other people out in the world, how you want to treat other people out in the world, how you want to feel about other people out in the world. This gives you the opportunity to do that I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to have more on this as we continue to go throughout the summer. So please ask your questions. And if there's any good ones that I really like, I will do a broadcast around it. And certainly welcome anybody's questions now. But thank you so much for listening. If you need more help and you're at a place where you're like, I can't do this alone, visit themindfulhabit.com and you can check out our different programs and trainings and podcast episodes. So thank you for listening. I hope you do everything you can to have a wonderful summer. Rob in the chat says the mindful habit works. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. You know what I know? I know it works for me, and I know it works for our best clients, man, and you're one of them. So love you, brother. And for those of you guys who aren't knee-deep in the training, whether you're doing it formally with us, whether you're doing it with a therapist, whether you're doing it in your 12-step meeting, study your eye trajectory. Notice where it automatically, instantaneously goes. The better you understand that, the better you're able to say, wait, I know this feeling and the thought associated with this feeling, and I know where my eyes went and what I'm looking at and what I want it to be, but not ignoring it. All right, study that, the habits, brother, around oogling and objectifying, your training that you received regarding your oogling and objectifying is crazy, incredibly powerful. And Nathan, right, it works. Thank you, brother. You guys rock. You guys rock. All right. Well, listen, I wish everybody luck, not oogling and objectifying. Look forward to the next broadcast. Thank you guys for being so awesome. Embrace your power of choice. Feed the right wolf inside you. Thanks for listening. Peace and love, everybody.